Hi everyone, it's Leigh Diprose here from F-Stop Lounge. Today I have the well-known Simon Moss joining me here from New York, and Simon is from ImageBrief. Welcome, Simon.
Thank you, Leigh. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Simon, there's a lot of photographers out there in this world, and there's a lot of photos being taken, and for many people they store them on the hard drives and they're not sure where they should go with their photos and what they should do with them. Can you give us a little bit of insight behind your brand and your business of what ImageBrief is and how it benefits photographers?
Sure, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you're dead right. A lot of photographers, a lot of content, and a lot of what we focus on, which is kind of what we say idle assets. So content that's basically kind of collecting digital dust. I think one of the challenges for the modern day photographer is, how do I get a return on investment from those assets? And unfortunately, the way that the major libraries, the duopoly, as I say, of major libraries operate, is that they want to keep the buyer and the photographer separate from each other, and it's not in their interest to connect them. And actually, if you look at the number of images that are on, the big libraries, in context of the number of images that are actually out there in the world, it's quite small. So, we estimate there's probably about 7 or 8 billion images that are sitting around on hard drives of semi-pro and pro photographers. But the reason that we started ImageBrief was for that reason. We knew that from our previous history as photo editors and photographers, we knew that there was a lot of content out there that was sitting around, and we knew that the buyers were not happy with the status quo, and they continually kind of complained of trawling through stock libraries. And in our previous business, what happened was we would have a buyer that would send us an email with a paragraph kind of description of what they were looking for, and it was always very specific. There'd be things like, we need a shot of a woman that looks between the age of 20 to 23. It's got to look like she's in New York or London or Sydney. She looks like she's getting off a plane, but she can't be on the plane. And all this rich kind of descriptive requirement. And what we would do is we would send that manually to a handful of photographers that we knew. And we think, I wonder if Gavin O'Neill would have that shot, or I wonder if so-and-so would have that shot. And then the photographer would send us an email back and say, actually, I've got one that I shot 2 years ago that's just been sitting on my hard drive. And we would then email that to the art producer or the art director or photo editor, and they'd buy the shot. And that was kind of the genesis of the business. We thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we could connect, all those hundreds of thousands of buyers out there in the world with photographers direct, and have them brief the photographer with a description of what they were looking for, and then give the photographer the ability to respond and monetize those idle assets, because it would be impossible for photographers to index and catalog all of their back, their back catalog content, and it would be very time consuming. And so what we, are aiming to do with ImageBrief is only put the photographer through that process, or have them need to do that when there's a live and verified request, and that's what our business has been based on.
Wow, that sounds really interesting, and it's been really successful. I know I've joined up, and we've since launched premium memberships, which I'll go on to in a little bit. And I personally think it's fantastic. I've been on other stock sites before, and you see a lot of those sort of generic stock shots that just you cringe at. I want to share something with you that I've just come across as well, and hear your thoughts on it. Have you seen this coming up on my screen? It's shots from a movie set that was just put up by Getty and Fox, teamed up to create an unfinished business stunt, and it just goes to show that these famous actors, that you see here, are posing for these horrid, stock shots that just stand out. And I think there's one of them just where is it? Just up here, with a sad face coming up. This one.
Yeah, he's just got the bad kind of board report. I love it. I mean, it's funny. I mean, if you look at, back in the day, stock photos were taken specifically, they were set up, they were posed specifically to be resold. And I think what's happened is that brands and agencies have known for a long time that they're not authentic. They don't have that real, capturing of the moment aspect. And one of the things that we get continually asked for by our advertising agency clients is kind of authentic, moments that have actually been captured that look real. And stock photos, as you've just proven there, just don't look like that. And I think the public and the consumer is becoming ever more savvy and intelligent, and really distrust brands that use bad photography and bad imagery. Kind of, Apple have raised the bar on design, and I think that's starting to happen more and more with photography now. Is that people need to use very compelling, very real imagery, and they don't want the cheesy, as they say here in New York, teethy kind of stock shot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what I've found as well with ImageBrief is that it does have that lifestyle aspect to it, that it's an everyday sort of photo and people can relate to.
I'm Deborah Cole, and I'm in Los Angeles. I'm a lifestyle photographer. What I love about lifestyle is you're just really there with a person and you're capturing a moment of emotion and energy and joy. I like happiness, and I really like making people feel great and light up when they see their pictures. I started with ImageBrief a little less than a year ago, and I love it. Sometimes I'll look at a brief and I'll go, wow, I might as well just shoot that instead of going through my computer and finding something that might match it. So that's what I love. I love the idea of capturing exactly what they're looking for and then seeing it in the physical. So today what I decided to do is I was looking at the briefs, and they had a brief that was for a Stephen King novel. So we went ahead and I had a model, and we had her cozied up in a chair reading the novel, and that will be on Costco cover. I don't just shoot one thing. If a brief comes up, I look at, okay, if I'm going to have a model, I'm looking for 3 or 4 different things that I can shoot with them. So maybe it's something I've seen that comes up all the time in ImageBrief. So I'll get that iPad out, I'll get that cell phone out, I'll make sure I shoot vertically, horizontally. I try to remember it, I don't always. Right now I've won 14 briefs, just had the largest one, which was quite exciting because it was a technical challenge for me. It was shooting the explosive dynamic cocktail, and that's now going to be a billboard for Aria, Hotel Aria, so that's going to be pretty cool to see that in Vegas. With winning the 14 briefs now, I was calculating it pretty close to $20,000 in sales, and so to me that means $14,000 is what I've made off of the brief. I think that the thing that's different about shooting for ImageBrief is there's buyers out there that are looking specifically for something that gives me the opportunity to shoot things, add to my portfolio, and that's what's great about it, is there's many timeless ideas.
All for the girls who love me. Can you tell me a little bit about, I know that Facebook used one of your images from a photographer for one of their briefs. Can you just explain why they used it? And why they went with you as opposed to another brand? Why you think that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good question. The particular campaign that you're talking about was for Facebook Nearby Friends, and what they wanted was a selfie, right? So a lot of buzz around the word selfie, and now it's like millennials and those kind of things. So the selfie, but what they wanted was a shot that had been taken that had production values, but had an Instagram type feel to it. And so one of the things with the selfie is that it's taken typically with the forward-facing camera of the phone, which is a lower quality lens than the lens on the back of the camera, which are generally quite good and quite powerful. And so anyway, the particular brief went out for a selfie, but with production values, but it had to look and feel like it was actually taken in the moment. And that's one of the challenges for brands, is that there's actually a lot of content out there on social media, Facebook, Instagram, but it's not easy for them to be able to access content that actually has the the licensing and the model releases attached to it, because a lot of the majority of the world and actually still a lot of photographers are still getting to grips with what does intellectual property mean, what do I need model releases for, what do I need property releases for. And so we actually, because we have indemnification agreements and master service agreements with a lot of the big agencies, we're able to supply content that looks like it's been found on social media but actually has production value qualities.
Right, yeah, and I think that's really important for brands out there who sort of seek images and things like that, because half the time they go to these websites and they're not sure about the royalties and licenses and whether it's exclusive or being used elsewhere. And I think from the buyer's perspective, that's where ImageBrief really excel.
That's right. I mean, it's difficult for an art buyer at a major advertising agency to be able to. They can't deal with hundreds or thousands of individual photographers. Take Omnicom and WPP, for example, which are two of the largest kind of holding companies of advertising agencies in the world. You have to go through a really stringent vendor approval process before they can actually buy images from you. And that requires, in a lot of instances, tens of thousands of dollars worth of insurance and indemnification promises. And so, we take that pain away from the photographer and give them the ability to be able to transact with those big agencies without, having the headache or the pain or the risk involved. In actually doing that. Yeah.
For sure. And transact is probably my favorite word. Hearing from ImageBrief when I first joined up, there was 70% commission basically on any sort of ImageBrief sale. And just recently you've launched a premium sort of network where photographers can pay a subscription fee, a monthly fee, but then get 100% of the royalty. Can you just explain that and how that sort of how that happened?
Yeah, totally. And do you know what? It's interesting because we've launched it to what we call our eligible photographer accounts, and we're only allocating 5% of our membership photographer kind of members to that premium account. And a lot of photographers said, are you mad? You must be, kind of losing money. So here's our rationale. Here's why we're doing it. If you're building a business, a photo business, if you look at, the next, majorly successful photo platform, and you start from scratch and you say, what is it going to look like? Well, the reality is the duopoly kind of incumbents that own the market from the stock photo perspective are really, their model is based on keeping the photographer and the buyer apart, and it's based on reselling existing inventory at incredibly high transaction or high volumes, but with very tiny margins. And so they're in a price war. And you have to look at the market and say, well, where's that going to go? I mean, Shutterstock came out, guns blazing. Really, when they went public, everyone, I think, started to realize how successful that microstock model was being. And buyers have an insatiable demand for low-cost imagery. And because they're spending the money, they're the ones that really drive the market. And if you look at, what's happened with our friends at Getty, they've now moved to a subscription model, very aggressive on that. And I think that's kind of to fend off Shutter. So when we kind of look at that and look at that landscape, you have a choice. It's like, well, do you continue to kind of crush photographers, decrease pricing, and end up basically in a race to the bottom, which is not what we want to do. We don't want to do that. We don't think that's the right place to go. We want to sell content for good market value for photographers, but we want to be more aligned with them. And I think one of the things that happened as we started to learn more about what our buyers and our photographers are doing on the platform, we realized actually that a lot of them wanted to connect with each other. And so we would have buyers that would say, do you have a photographer that is in Hawaii right now, or in Bali or Fiji or London or Tuscany or whatever? And on the other side of the platform, we had emails from photographers coming in saying, I've just seen a brief go out for Tuscan food or Tuscan architecture or whatever it might be, in London neighborhoods. I'm here, I can shoot it. And so we we kept thinking, so how do we bring these guys together, but actually have a sustainable model so that we can keep, paying the bills, and not go out of business, basically. And we didn't want to get to a point where we were getting involved in, location scouting and stuff. We were really thinking about it from a LinkedIn perspective, and LinkedIn emails. And what we wanted to do was basically kind of monetize the connection to pay the bills and be, financially responsible for ourselves. But bring those two parties together. And so, the idea of the premium, the founding premium subscription product, is really to take the base of our photographers, the guys that have proven, good quality work, good quality submissions. They've been approved. We've seen their content. Their profiles are completed. We're proud to put them forward to our buyers, and let's work with them to help them actually build their network of buyers, followers, promote themselves forward to shoot, briefs that may not convert because the buyer just hasn't found the right shot. But then also give them, a marketplace where they can publish their work directly into that marketplace, and actually take control over the pricing.
The Land Rover brief is actually the first brief where I promoted myself and kind of put myself in front of the person intentionally. The premium account feature where you can promote yourself to the buyer, I hit the promote me button, and about 24 hours later I was contacted by the senior art producer at Young & Rubicam. A few different photographers, including myself, were given Land Rovers, and we were just told to go explore, and the hashtag was Go Somewhere Rare. So we got to go visit these awesome national parks. It was not the worst job I've ever had to do, that's for sure.
If you're a photographer and you're not based in a major city like LA or New York City, you're not meeting with ad agencies every day, you're not meeting with art directors. I'm out here on an island, I have to take a ferry or a plane to get to anybody. So it's great to have a website like ImageBrief that allows me to connect with people online and find out about unique needs that I might be able to fulfill.
So, we've moved from, a single narrow focus, which was, briefs, which is very linear, buyer posts a brief, photographer submit images. They're now saying, well, that's the hub of our business, and will always be. This is very unique. It's the only place on the internet that a photographer can go and actually see really high quality verified briefs coming in. Like there's contest sites and challenge sites and all this kind of stuff, but look at them, it's like $10, $20, an image, and it's impossible for that to be a sustainable income for a photographer, whereas our minimum is $250.
Yeah.
So the briefing part is kind of the core foundation of the platform. What it means is actually that if a photographer's image doesn't sell in a brief, we can then help them by giving that image a second life, and we can put that into a marketplace for them where buyers can search and then buy that directly from the photographer. We can give the photographer tools that allow them to promote themselves for the job. We've built Find a Pro, which is basically our search marketplace. So, well, it's not a marketplace, it's a search engine, a dynamic listing directory of photographers based on location, genre, and skill set. And now the premium kind of private marketplace where the photographers can publish their own collections of work. And one example of that actually is a photographer, Diana Pappas, that joined a couple of weeks ago with a premium account. And she had this amazing collection of images that were from her travels in London and so all around England. And so we created a collection called This Is England. I mean, you can search for it and find it on our search marketplace. And then we took that and we actually promoted that to our buyers in London and in the UK as a very specific, culture and location specific. So what we've been able to do is to take, high quality photographers' work and collections and then treat that in a way with respect and take that to buyers that it would be very relevant for. And so already what's happened is Diana started to build up. She's had over 1,000 views on her profile now. People have added to their network. And we really want to be hand in hand with these premium photographer guys and to help them build their business on our platform and not dictate pricing, but give the photographer the control to be able to get exposure and access and build a following, but also participate in real live requests, and you know, we can't. There's certain things we can guarantee, and there's certain things we can't guarantee. So we can't guarantee sales for a photographer. It'd be, you know, silly for us to be able to pretend that we can do that. But what we can guarantee is that we put, you know, a lot of marketing dollars and effort and time into promoting the entire platform, regardless of whether they're a premium or an explorer, kind of on a free account. There's no differentiation from the buyer's perspective when they look at the images. They're not going to, you know, necessarily prefer premium over explorer or explorer over premium. They see the images in the same way. So there's no special preference given to images in briefs. But the stuff that we can guarantee to the photographer is that they're verified requests. We don't waste our time in curating and sourcing and launching briefs if we don't know who the buyer is and that they're from a verified agency, that we know that they've got money to spend. And we give the photographer tools to be able to promote and expose themselves across the entire platform now in a way that's just not available anywhere else. There's nowhere else.
Yeah. And that's something that I see over and over again. I mean, I go to other stock sites just to check them out, and to be honest, there's nothing that comes close. And I think that's why ImageBrief has been so successful. Photographers have just jumped on it, and it is sort of the last frontier for photographers to be awarded for what their photos are really worth. Because, as you said before, some of the briefs start at sort of $250, but we've even sort of seen images sell for $30,000. So I applaud you and the team at ImageBrief for the wonderful work you guys do. So
I appreciate that. We've got a sale actually at the moment that's been right through the approval process. It's for $160,000.
Yeah, wow.
And actually, so it's for a handful of images, and actually 3 out of the 4 photographers are premium photographers. So these photographers are going to earn, you know, $20,000 or $30,000 from the sale of these images. They get 100% of that money. They'll be able to buy cars, you know, put down deposits on houses. I mean, it's just, there's nothing else like it out there, and we may actually end up with a platform, not necessarily with tens or hundreds of thousands of photographers, but maybe just a handful of a few thousand incredible photographers around the world that we're totally in sync and in partnership with, and helping them, you know, build their business. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of, you know, I totally empathize with photographers. I mean, it's very, very difficult as a photographer to know what's going on in the industry, but I mean, we're in it every day. We watch every, you know, move in the space. We know what the competitors are doing. We know where, you know, we've spent hundreds of thousands of hours with buyers and photographers. So we have a sense of what's going on. We don't know everything that's going on, but we have a really good sense. And I think one of the concerns for us, and one of the things I think that there's a big opportunity for us to do, that we're going to be working on hard this year, is really educating photographers on what's happening in the market, and what they can do to put their best foot forward in terms of, you know, connecting with buyers and monetizing content for the right. It's great. It's very difficult for a photographer to know, you know, how do I react with my photo business now, considering the rapid, you know, rate of change and development and innovation that's happening in the space. Unfortunately, and with most of the platforms, to detriment to the photographer, because it means a decline in price. And, you know, microstock content, which you know, suits some, but most of the big ad agencies are not buying that content because it's either, you know, cheesy.
It's like those photos we saw before.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't really.
This is our ImageBrief t-shirt. On a paper frame.
It's a Tom Cruise box.
I did not know that we were doing this today, so I look a little crazy right now.
Let me tell you who I am first, because I am the boss.
I'm more important.
No, I'm the boss.
I'm Sean. I'm the developer.
My actual name is Melissa, but from a young age, people called me Missy. I have all kinds of nicknames.
It's fascinating.
gosh, who's my favorite? Look, I would have to say my favorite is Johnny. He's the guy that looks like he's auditioning for the next Teen Wolf movie.
It's not factual at all.
What movie would you say he's out?
Brokeback Mountain, maybe?
All right, so ImageBrief is a crowdsourced marketplace for photography that connects some of the best advertising agencies and brands with, what else is ImageBrief?
We're helping photographers build their business on ImageBrief. And what's that was not fair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was not fair. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Yeah, where was I?
So we're a photography marketplace that matches image buyers with photographers.
Let's say a creative director could come to ImageBrief and really put in your own words what kind of image you're looking for. And then we have a team and also an algorithm that helps bring that best image to you.
It's the untraditional way for clients to be looking for stock imagery because they're going to get material that they wouldn't be able to get from other stock agencies.
Here I look at stock as something that I know my creatives are not going to want to see. They don't want to see it.
I mean, you search stock photography these days and 9 times out of 10 every site has the same picture, and it's a regurgitation of what you've seen for the past decade.
Page after page of the same types of images over and over again that is just mundane, and it's just waste time, frankly. I was introduced to ImageBrief as an alternative to stock sites and a new kind of breakthrough kind of revolution in that space.
All of a sudden there was this curation, and that was, I think, the biggest, most important piece to me, was that someone was going to actually look at those images before I ever did to make sure they fit my needs.
This is going to change the way we do business.
You understand photographers, Simon, and so does your team. You do it really well. Can you tell me a little bit about your history with photography? Did you ever pick up a camera yourself? And I know that you resided in Sydney for a little bit. There's pictures here. Yep.
Yeah. So actually, no, sorry. It sounds like the Ghostbusters are going to go by. We're right in the middle of Soho in New York, so it's pretty busy. So actually, the genesis was my wife and partner on the business was a photo editor at ACP magazines in Sydney.
Right.
And my background was actually in technology, but we set up a small stock library in 2005, so nearly kind of 10 years ago. And so I've been buried in the industry since then. I'm nowhere near as good as 2% of our photographers. I'm not a great photographer. I know great photography when I see it. It's like wine. I know the taste of it, but I can't necessarily make it. So I leave that job to our photographers. I think one of the things that I'm heavily focused on here at ImageBrief is what does the next iteration of the product need to look like in order to make it stickier and stickier for our buyers, and more valuable for our photographers. And so luckily that doesn't require me to be amazing with a camera. Meg's the expert on licensing and content, and she has an amazing eye for imagery, and she still oversees all the content and curation. We've got 2 professional photographers here actually that do all the content creation. So that's Darcy and Ken.
Okay.
They actually look at every single image that goes through the system, and you have to do that because it's impossible. Google. It might be 10, 15 years before Google comes out with something automated that can maybe mildly detect the quality of it. Like you can pick out, if it's got recognizable face or objects and stuff like that. The quality is so subjective. You can't have a machine choose authentic over non-authentic. That only it's art versus science. And so, I'm rambling a little bit.
That's fantastic to hear that you're so involved in the business and have come from a background of that curation sort of aspect of establishing a stock library and seeing how the production works. And for those people that are interested in hearing about licensing and things like that, there's a great video on your Vimeo channel with Meg, sort of speaking about that, and also some aspects of going more into that sort of the Facebook photo and other aspects as well. So I highly encourage you to check that out. I'll put a link below so you can check it out. Now, lastly, Simon, I'm interested to hear what you see the future of stock photography being, and is there a big announcement that you want to make or anything like that about what we will see on ImageBrief in the future and what we can look forward to?
Well, look, I mean, the features that we're working on at the moment, obviously it's a bit delicate because we've put, stuff, and so we don't want to lose our ability to kind of stay on the front foot. But I think ultimately there's three pillars of the business now. We've got briefing, which is the kind of foundation, and then we've got the search marketplace, and then we've got the hiring and assignment aspect. And really what we're focused on now is kind of integrating those three streams, or those three major kind of building blocks of the product, into a cohesive kind of addictive daily habit experience for our buyers. And by focusing on the buyer, you're actually focusing on the photographer, because there's a lot of platforms out there that spruik a whole lot of different features and stuff for photographers, but unless you're actually transacting and the buyers are buying, and you've got the right buyers coming on, they're getting the right experience, if they don't keep coming back, the photographers will disappear in a heartbeat. So yeah, we're very focused on kind of integrating those three aspects of the business into an increasingly kind of compelling experience. And then on the photographer side, on the supply side, is really working hand in hand with our photographers. I mean, we want to give them total transparency in terms of what people are searching for, what are the key trends, how can we help them be more successful with their content, and visibility around stats and metrics. Be very powerful, as we've been doing with our premium photographers, to be able to give them direct feedback as to the performance of their images, how many times they've been viewed, the conversion rate, the pricing, and help them adjust and manage that themselves, but us giving them the information to be able to take that control themselves. That's kind of where we're really focused on, rather than saying, we're just going to keep decreasing pricing and like the competitors, screwing the photographer basically, like that's not going to work. And actually, that's not really exciting. Right? That's not innovative. And we don't believe that the incumbents have the final solution. We know that there's an increasing demand for content, and I think it's going to be increasingly more personalized for the buyer and more personalized for the photographer. Like, we have photographers that come to us and say, well, all I've done is shot, Salman Rushdie or the Anthony's mosquito, or I'm a specialist in this. And we know we've got buyers that are really interested in very kind of custom and specific types of photography. So the more we can match the buyer that's and the photographer, that's the key. Start to deliver value that's exponential over what's available today.
And to sum it up for those photographers who don't really know about stock photography, it's sort of like online dating. I suppose you're the matchmaker between the two parties, bring them together, and romance comes from it. So
that's the idea. We like to be the matchmaker. I mean, there's nothing better than seeing the requests go out to the photographers for assignment work, and I think we can do a better job of helping photographers understand how to price. Because that's very opaque as well, and it's very uncomfortable in some respects to be negotiating pricing. There's some different things that we're working on there to help photographers with the way that they can quote jobs and quote work, and convert more of those inquiries into actual paid work. I wrote about this in the article. The Spotify and Snowboy and Frogs article, which is, if you look at the music world and musicians, and what's happened there is that they're actually making more money from their gigs now than they are from the digital downloads. And I think really that's where, for photographers, that's where we can be really powerful in helping them get more gigs. And I think you know, when we connect the buyer, you know, like we had an inquiry about an hour ago from a buyer in Boston that was looking for a still life photographer in Boston to shoot tomorrow, a product catalog, and we've managed to connect these you know, two together based on location, based on the photographer's skill set. They checked out the portfolio of the photographer, and that's really exciting. It's a little bit kind of like the Uber, you know, for photography, in that it's, you know, location based.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to a driver who's sitting there with a car, we've got a photographer with a camera that's available, and so the more we can trigger those interactions and connections, I think the better it will be for the industry, and the better it will be for photographers.
Yeah, and for me, it is a great tool to use on a daily basis to see all the briefs coming out, and you know, it's not just me that sees the images and well, sort of relates it to my own sort of work and stuff. I might see something in, you know, Iceland or, you know, something like that, and I'll send the brief to someone that I know that's been there, you know, and that's how I think it's this community that gathers around, and we sort of help each other out. So it's really good in that aspect. But Simon, I wanted to really thank you for your time, and thank you for joining an F-Stop Lounge interview. And it was really interesting to hear about how ImageBrief works. And can you just tell us can you tell people where they can sign up if they're interested in becoming a photographer? Because you've got some processes involved in sort of reviewing their portfolios. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. So basically, anyone can register, you know, using a Facebook account or an email address for a free account. And basically, what happens is you get one shot per brief. We used to review the actual link of the portfolio of the photographer, you know, whether it was their stuff on Getty or Flickr or wherever their content was. But what we realized is that a lot of photographers would say, well, look, that's not my best work, and you know, I've just seen a brief that's very specific and it's very relevant to me. So we wanted to kind of give photographers their kind of training wheels, so to speak, and let them come on and actually have a go. So you can put one shot in per brief, and then basically, if you get shortlisted or awarded, all your work kind of you know, picks the eye of one of our photo editors, we then upgrade you to be able to submit 10 shots per brief. And then you basically upgrade from there, so it's 10, then 20, then 30, then unlimited. And so some photographers have unlimited. The reason we kind of chose the kind of restriction in terms of the number of images that are submitted is that it just really ensures a high quality experience for our buyer, rather than them getting flooded with content. The photographer is really careful about which images they choose. But then once you're upgraded and approved to be able to submit 10 images, you're then eligible for a premium account, and we'll basically stop that at kind of 5% of our base, and then work really closely and kind of hand in hand with those premium photographers around getting, you know, assignment work. And so, you know, any photographer can join, participate, and you know, when we speak to photographers, because one of our worries up front when we set the business up was, you know, is it going to be too much of a hassle for a photographer to kind of, you know, get the brief, go and dig out the image? And what's really interesting is when we speak to photographers, they're like, well, look, it's on my hard drive anyway, right? So no one's going to see it unless I get it up and upload it.
Yeah.
If I get a brief from you guys, I get it and upload it, at least I know that there's a real buyer there that's looking for the content. I get to see exactly what buyers want, which you can't do anywhere else on the internet. I get to see what real buyers are searching for and looking for. And then the beauty is now, because we've now got the search marketplaces, if it doesn't sell through the brief, I get a second chance at selling it in a marketplace where I know what buyers are looking. So a lot of our photographer community say it's quite addictive. We purely, you know, the most we can do is to provide the mechanism to connect the two. We're in essence providing the environment to connect the two. We don't, you know, we don't have any preferential treatment over one image over the other, because what's fascinating is that, you know, a lot of the time the images that we go, wow, that's amazing, don't always get purchased. It's, you know, another one, because it's very subjective. You know, it's like, you know, buyers. You know, one buyer might say, "Oh, that one is, you know, more kind of cheesy than this one, and this one's more authentic." And we might say, "Well, we don't think that," and it's not up for us to say. It's like so yeah, from a photographer's perspective, we love to see new photographers, come and join up, submit their content. We can give them feedback, and then hopefully work in partnership with them to help them kind of build their business.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Simon, once again, and I wish you all the best in the week ahead and also the year ahead with ImageBrief. So thanks very much for joining.
No, many thanks, Lee. Really nice to be part of it. Take care.